Hello, everyone. I'm Amruth, and I just wanted to give a quick demo as to how Good Deeds works, which is a project that was developed by me and my friend Andrew Sun at the 2024 Boston Hacks Hackathon. And this was a platform that won second place. And so I can just introduce you to how Good Deeds works. So Good Deeds is a platform designed for NGOs, for local communities or large scale communities, as well as volunteers. And it's basically designed for these organizations, especially nonprofit organizations who want to organize something like a post disaster recovery cleanup session, something at that scale, all the way down to something like just a local community service, as well as for a platform for volunteers who want to sign up for these events. With the recent rise of a lot of more natural disasters or man-made tragedies occurring, we realized that a lot of individuals don't really have a platform to do these things other than just vanilla social media, which can get drowned out very quickly. So I can go ahead and I can show you how this platform works. It's being hosted on the Streamlit cloud, and we use Streamlit to develop the front end for this app. So when I click get started here, I can sign up as a volunteer. So I'll do that first. Let's just call this test user for one. And we can just say test user at gmail.com. Want to make a password? Let's just call it test password. And here I have two options. So now I can enter my location as a zip code. And what this is going to do is it's going to pinpoint my latitude and longitude approximately. In addition to that, I can select my preferred distance to how far I want to be willing to travel in order to volunteer for a specific event. And this will become relevant later. But as for now, I can just say something like where I am currently, so Boston. And I can say I'd be willing to travel, let's say something like 100 miles to volunteer for an event. So I can click sign up here. And as you can see, it should show up. Yeah, so now I can log in. And if I go back with com and test password, should work. Correct. So now the fact is nothing shows up as of now. And this is because there are no events in the area. But I can show you a bit more here. So this is my profile. This shows my current level of experience, my name, my email, and I can also update these details whenever I want. We also have a leaderboard, and this shows the current users across all users who use this app by ranking of experience. So just give this a minute to load. And essentially, this will show all users as well as their current XP ranking and their approximate zip code. So currently, of course, these are just placeholder email accounts and placeholder names passed down here. But this gives you a good idea of how this app would function. So now we're going to start and we're going to create an organization. So I'll just add some placeholder values for now. And when I click sign up, we'll get a message that it was created successfully and I can log in. The login is successful. So now the default page here is it's just going to show me the leaderboard, which as we know, it takes a bit of time. But here I also have a similar profile page for the users, and I can update the description that I have for my organization. Now here is the core page for organizations. This is the post an event / drive page. So now I can post an event and I can specify everything that I want to do with it. So I can make an event description, I can put a date of event, I can put a zip code for the event. And as you see now here, let's just say, for example, something like a disaster recovery. So let's just say, imagine if there was a hurricane in Boston, and we can call this Boston hurricane recovery. We can say this will be a meetup for individuals to volunteer to support hurricane relief, right? And let's imagine that this is going to happen. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. But let's just say this is November 30th. Say something like 8 in the morning. We're going to meet, and this is back to our uh, Boston zip code. Um, and we'll say something like a severity ranking of 1 to 5. We can change this however we like, but in this case, if it's a hurricane relief, let's just say this is 4, right? Because in theory, we would need a large number of volunteers. So we can also specify that here. Let's just say 100, and now we can click post event, and it'll say event posted successfully. So now when I log out, and I can log back in now in my test user that I made, correct? Which is test user at gmail.com with test password. So now when I log in, I can see all organizations that are within my specified distance. So I put 100 miles, and this is just going to show up here. Um, as we can see, this shows all events for a specific organization. So in this case, there's only one event for this organization, and it shows the description, the date and time, as well as an address that was generated by the approximate zip code. We also have a 4-star severity rating in this case, which is how it appears to the user. Here on the left-hand side, on the sidebar, we have a filter for events within a specific date and time. In this case, this is just set to a year. That's the default volunteering. But obviously, nobody knows in that far in advance for a specific event, correct? So in this case, let's say, for example, I go to this and I go to November 2024. The start date is November 7th. That's today. If I, for example, put this at November 27th here, it's just going to say no events found for the selected date and time range. And that makes sense because when we generated our test organization with this specific event, um, we put it for November 30th. And so obviously it's not going to show up until November 30th. But the organization name will show up, which means they happen to have an event within your radius. It's just that it's not within the exact time. So there are a couple other features here. So I can click volunteer for this event, and this will say you have successfully volunteered for this event, which now puts you on a mailing list, which I can get to later. I can also chat about the event. We've also integrated the OpenAI API here, and I can chat with a large language model to tell me about this event. So let's say, for example, I want to ask, can you tell me a bit more about this event? And we pass this in, and this will go to a large language model, and this will generate an output. In this case, it's a bit ambiguous, of course, just because we've used a very, very basic description. But essentially, in practice, this will be used for any description that is, created by an organization that is somewhat descriptive. We've also been able to pass in the date and time and location. So you can ask the large language model about, approximately what time this would take place, where location is. The OpenAI API also allows to connect with the internet. So you can potentially even ask about how to take directions to this area. And overall, it's a pretty useful feature. So now one more feature that I want to show is how the dashboard actually only shows you relevant organizations who have events that are posted within your radius. For example, as of now, obviously this is going to show because my registered zip code as well as the organization's zip code happen to be the exact same value, correct? So when I log out here, let's just say I want to sign up as a new organization who makes a new event. And this is just some placeholder values again. So when we sign up here, And when we log in, I can create an event that's within some radius. So I'll make actually two events. Um, for example, when I post an event here, let's call this, zip code test one, and we can give it a description of testing within range. We can give this a date. Let's just say sometime in the future. And this zip code, let's give it a zip code that's within a 100-mile radius. If you remember, that's the radius that we put for our test users, distance that he's willing to travel, correct? So for example, the zip code 06268 is the zip code of Storrs, Massachusetts. We can just add a random severity value and we can post this event. Let's also make a new one called zip code test 2, testing outside of range. We can give this the same, it doesn't really matter, but let's put this completely far, way out of the 100-mile range that our user specified. Let's call this some notable zip code like 90210, which will be all the way out in the West Coast in California. And we can just give this a random rating and we can post event. Now, when we log out and we can log back in as our user, we can show the really interesting feature of this platform, which is only the relevant organizations will show up who have an event within that range that I specified, which is 100 miles. So now when I sign in, as you can see here, the zip code testing, the organization itself will show up. But of their events, we only have the one that's within the 100-mile radius. So as you can see here, we just posted those two events, but only one of them shows up because only one of them is within the 100-mile radius. So in the back end, underneath the hood, we're doing a lot of distance computations where we're taking the approximate zip code, converting that to latitude and longitude, and applying a function to calculate the distance and only display the ones that are underneath this sort of distance. So this is a pretty monumental feature here, and it allows for a lot of really cool things where we can send targeted emails to users that are within this certain radius. And I can go and showcase that. So yeah, this is GoodDeeds. There are still a couple of bugs that we need to end up squashing with the front end, with the back end. We haven't had a ton of time to work on it since the hackathon, of course, and we didn't really have a ton of time to work on it during the hackathon, of course. But we hope you guys enjoy. This was a really fun project. I got to learn a lot about front-end development using Streamlit and Python, as well as back-end development. And we hope you enjoy. So thank you.